A TED Talk by Joyce Yao. The award-winning and well-acclaimed yet controversial book by Heidi Duro, The Girl Who Fell from the Sky, tells a story in fragments about a young biracial girl named Rachel and the struggle she faces with racial identity, the mysteries of her past, love, loss, and belonging. This novel unfolds in segments, shedding light on the perspective of one character at a time, as each of their stories reveal more about themselves and Rachel's complicated past. Aspects of each character's backstory and how they tie into each other are unlocked, not in a chronological order, but separate of each other, adding to the complexity of the story. Rachel was born to a white Danish mother who fell in love with an African-American military mapmaker. They both loved to dance, drink, and although Roger said that a mixed-race couple would never be accepted, the young couple eventually has their first child, Charles. But however, in a tragic turn of events, he dies in a house fire that his dad, Roger, accidentally sets after falling asleep with a lighted cigarette in his hand. 3 more children later, and Nella's relationship with Roger was falling apart. At an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, she became infatuated with a red-haired American named Doug, whom she runs away with to Chicago. However, America is not as accepting of Nella and her biracial children as Europe was. She is forced to raise the children on her own as Doug succumbs to alcohol and becomes a man whose behavior is sporadic, violent, and often racist. Hopeless, overworked, and unable to protect her children or give them a better future, Nella holds on to them as she jumps from a 9-story building. None survive except for Rachel, who was sent to live with her strict African-American grandmother and sweet Aunt Loretta in a primarily black neighborhood in Portage. Before, when she used to live in Germany, Rachel never had to think of herself as black or white. Race wasn't really much of an issue. However, as she adapts to American society, all of that has to change. Immersed in complex worlds of black and white culture, Rachel feels conflicted with her identity and the negative view others have on her as a biracial girl. She feels like she isn't enough to fit into other groups and is instead looked down upon by both. Rachel states, "I learned that black people don't have blue eyes. I learned that I am black. I have blue eyes. I put all of these facts into the new girl." Rachel sees herself as the strange new girl and quietly takes in the new environment around her, especially when it comes to race. The first thing she notices about her classroom is the ratio of black to white students and whether she would be considered black or white. Her bright blue eyes and light-skinned complexion often gain her unwanted attention. Black girls in her class treat her as an outcast, as someone who is seen as too white, stuck up, and proper. They automatically think that she thinks she is better than everyone else because of the way she talks, her beauty, and fair skin. Rachel turns to boys and the physical pleasure they can give her as a form of acceptance and approval. Rachel learns to adopt the racial prejudice and superficial judgment inflicted on her by her peers as she absorbs the racial stereotypes and looks down on people who she sees as less educated than herself. For example, her grandmother likes to spend her time watching the television, is not very educated, speaks AAVE, African American Vernacular English, and collects a variety of things that Rachel sees as useless. On the other hand, Aunt Loretta participates in what Rachel sees as more stereotypically white activities, such as tennis and reading. She believes that Aunt Loretta is smart and better than her grandma, who does not participate in those activities. A central theme of the novel is how families cope with trauma and can hurt each other trying to do what they think is best. Nella loved her children very dearly, but was the one who threw them and herself off a building as an attempt to protect them from the cruel realities of the world. Regardless of what Rachel's mother did, she still loves her dearly and remembers how hard she tried to give them a better life. When asked about how she feels about what happened on the rooftop that day, Rachel replies, "There was just that one time, that one day, and she couldn't protect me from the hurt I think for her, it seems like day one. Counting the days is a motif seen throughout the novel that represents adapting to new places and journaling to overcome the hardships it brings. Both Nella and Rachel did not have anyone to turn to or tell their feelings to, and perhaps counting the days helped them cope. Roger also tries displaying his love for Rachel by deciding to never show up again after visiting her in the hospital. He knows he is an alcoholic and feels that his presence would only harm her. He truly believes that she would be happier without him, but fails to see that one of the things she wants most is to have her family and her father by her side as well as in her life. With no way to cope with her emotions, Rachel bottles them up deep inside of her. She describes it as a blue glass bottle with a cork. She states that in that bottle is where everything sad and confusing goes. As time goes on, the bottle expands and grows and one day shatters. She talks about the bottle for the first time to Drew, Aunt Loretta's fiancé, after she dies. The bottle inside of her is like the blues, swirling with emotions. She tells her grandma one day that she wants her to be special and to be her own, but she knows that Rachel is both. She is Nella Flo's daughter, and that's part of what makes her special. In this scene, Rachel says the blue bottle breaks inside of her, and her emotions she's been brewing for so long are released. Everyone wants her to define herself as someone unrelated to her mother, but she knows that part of her mother will always be alive within her. Brick also has trouble coping with traumatic experiences. When he was little, his name was Jamie, and he thought he witnessed a bird fall from the sky through his apartment window. To his shock and dismay, what flew down from the window was not a bird, but a family, crushed in a heap on the ground. When the cops questioned him, he told them his name was Brick, not Jamie, and that a man pushed the family. Perhaps he lied to the cops as to what he saw as a way to cope with why that would happen to a family. Maybe he started taking on the name Brick to tell himself he was strong and could handle what he witnessed. From that day on, he visited the shrine for the family, visited Rachel in the hospital, and eventually met her dad, who told him his story and taught him harmonica. It became Brick's mission to one day tell Rachel. He ran from home and took 6 years to find her in Portland. Birds and alcohol are a constant motif throughout the book. Alcohol symbolizes the toxic way in which people try to forget the tragedies that happened to them, drowning themselves in an attempt to relieve the effects of the past. All the adults around Rachel either die or succumb to alcoholism, except for Drew, who helps people into rehab and represents hope. Birds symbolize dreams, escape, a better future. When Rachel's family jumps off the building, they are compared to birds, because Nella tried to lead them to what she thought was the best future she could give them, a future unaware to the racism and injustices of the world. Brick represents a bird himself. He plays his harmonica like a bird sings and creates somewhat of a future for himself with it. He migrates all around like a bird, chasing dreams. In the end of the novel, after Brick has told Rachel what her father wanted her to hear one day, they sit in a park and Brick tosses a coin, which scares a flock of birds away. This flock of birds represents how Rachel, Drew, Brick, and all the other people in her life. Some have flown away and some have chased other dreams, and one day she too will fly away like a bird and chase new dreams. This novel is filled with emotions and provides a deep understanding of the perspective of troubled youth, racial identity, family abandonment and love, and most of all, belonging to a place and building a future of your own. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.